Start off a Monday, a Tuesday really, on a very, very high note. But with the new year just around the corner, right, the most important aspect to start the new year, and an important aspect to consider when starting the new year, is having goals to achieve, and that is financially. Now this week marks Financial Planning Week, and the significance of the week is to educate and help individuals to achieve their objectives when it comes to their finances. To talk more about the importance of financial planning, we are now joined by the founder of Veritas Wealth, also South Africa's 2013 Financial Plan of the Year, Barry Omani, as well as from Alexander Forbes. We are joined by Carl van der Berg. Now, do remember, you at home can participate in this morning's discussion. Give us a call, 011 537 9337 or 9338. Do remember, you're also more than welcome to share your comments on our Facebook as well as our Twitter pages. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
Carl, I was listening to you talk to Cindy just a little bit earlier on about how we almost have to adopt a different psychology when it comes to money.
Right.
Have South Africans been treating psychologically money really incorrectly? Therefore, we're finding the real big disparities between the rich and the poor.
I don't know if it's creating a disparity between the rich and the poor per se, but what I do think is that yes, we do have the wrong psychological approach when it comes to money. I know that for a lot of people that I meet with, their intentions are always good. Nobody's walking around with bad intentions, but the ability to actually bring that into something practical year after year, where they start to get on the front foot financially, it doesn't seem to happen. And I think the major reason why is that a lot of people are just afraid. If they had to take an honest look at where they're at and where they would like to be, excuse me, is that something that's going to be an unmanageable situation? And that fear would perhaps lead to apathy and not doing anything about it. And then every year they're no closer towards financial freedom, but rather just still have that same approach.
Just be comfortable, basically, because you're afraid of taking more risks where money is concerned?
Not necessarily, but just afraid to look at my life and to say, right, well, how do I look at this and decide for myself, what do I want? How do I want next year to look? And right now we're in November. The new year's around the corner. We like to make resolutions, and we like to think that things are going to change. But in actual fact, do we have the confidence to approach it differently, to really rethink how we think about money and to rethink how we think about wealth, so it's something that inspires us rather than something that makes us feel a little bit edgy?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, Barry.
Carl makes a really good point there, and I was in Florida recently at the FPA conference, and there was a guy, Daniel Pink, who was speaking, one of the main speakers, and he talked about the psychology as well, and he said that we as financial planners, we must stop trying to change people's behaviour, because it's not actually going to work. Correct. Any certified financial planner professional will tell you we keep trying and trying with people. What we have to do now is to start creating off-ramps. So people are carrying along a route, and you actually give them an off-ramp. And an off-ramp for a lot of people is, in a pension fund, is that the business makes it an auto-enrollment. You have to contribute to the pension fund. And rather than leaving the contribution be a small one, like a 7 or a 10%, we all know that it should be at 15%. So actually we need to start encouraging employers to start taking care of their people. And the second one, for anyone who's earning a salary, is you need to fool yourself into saving.
You need to fool yourself into saving.
And that's called a debit order, because you think you've spent the money.
Yes.
So they would be the two very practical things to start turning it around.
All right. Well, we're talking financial planning. How is it that you can become more financially savvy when it comes to your money and generate wealth? So do give us your call. If you do have questions for the gentleman in studio, give us a call, 011 537 9337 or 9338. Leave your comments on our Facebook as well as our Twitter pages as well. And let's see if we can engage and get to know something a little bit more about money. Guys, the new year is approaching, which means that the festive season is really, really upon us. A lot of times we've got this need, insatiable temptation to really spend. Is it really avoidable, you know, the whole spending with your family and going out and finding yourselves really honestly broke come January?
You make a very good point. I think January is the hardest and longest month for many families and individuals, not just in South Africa, but the whole world over. We'll get an early salary in December, and that then has to tide you over until nearly the end of January. And there's annual expenses that you might incur. And it's always bizarre because January you get to pay things up front for the year and get a discount, and oftentimes we don't have that buffer to be able to do that. So we end up incurring a lot of costs monthly again, whereas paying in advance would perhaps be something that we should be striving for. And in order to do that, my advice is always make sure that you've got room in your personal finance so that when December comes, you can have a good rest, a good break. You can buy the gifts that you want to buy for people without worrying, gosh, I'm creating problems for myself when I come back to my life in January and I realize that I'm sitting with the same problems and the budget is still as tight as it was last year. And now I've got all of these resolutions to sort it out. But practically, I'm a bit handicapped.
Sure. So
my in-laws have taught us a very good practical, I've never actually thought of it from a financial point of view, but what they've said is, listen, this is the budget. We're going to get you you're going to get one present from the family.
And this is how it stays.
And this is you can't go over this amount of money, whether that's 100 Rand or 200 Rand or whatever, it's set, and everybody must stick to that. And now, if you imagine, now you were going to get a present from 4 different people, now you're going to get one good present. And I think then you're starting to control it. And I think Carl would agree as well, is that we need to have honest conversations with each other, because everyone's in the same boat. So actually have an open conversation. Listen, we actually spend a bit too much at Christmas, we overdo it, why don't we just do this year? And actually that will bring the cost down. So
perhaps this is the whole importance of Financial Planning Week, so that we can be able to articulate messages such as these to help South Africans stay out of debt. But really, what are we planning on focusing particularly this financial week?
Yeah, and in fact last night we had a session in Cape Town. We had 100 people between the ages of 20 and 35. We went specifically after them. And we gave them a talk. There was a number of certified financial planners there answering questions. A number of practices around the country have opened up their practices for free consultations during the week. And then on Thursday in Cape Town and Claremont, we were giving a talk to maids and to gardeners that work in the area, because it's a slightly different dynamic. And the guy that's talking is from the Eastern Cape, so he's trilingual. So he'll be able to converse properly in the mother's tongue. And
when we're looking at, Carl, particularly the whole notion of investing, a lot of South Africans, it's almost when you start with the topic, almost get a little bit afraid, because they already have this amount of money that they have to stretch over for the month, and now you're telling them that they need to invest their money. How do we approach the subject of investing in a more mature way, in the sense that we are able to make those desired outcomes and returns?
Right. And that's really my experience. When I sit down with a lot of clients and a lot of individuals, I look at, let's say, the budget, if there is one, and I realize that there's been a lot of provision for things in that budget without really thinking about the basics. And it makes financial planning very difficult, and achieving financial freedom very difficult, because money is already committed elsewhere. For example, I do feel that the vast majority of South Africans are over-indebted, and I think the reason for that is because when you think about how debt is sold to you, think about a car or think about a cell phone contract, it's always sold as a monthly amount. It's never said, well, this car is going to cost you, at the end of all the interest and at the end of everything that you've had to pay, it's going to cost 400,000 Rand. Rather, it's 2,999 per month. And we'll find room for that in the budget. But coming back to investment question, if you had to go to the average South African and say, you really do need to be putting away 3,000 Rand per month at least to make sure that your retirement planning is on track, there's simply no space in that budget. So I think that to have an intelligent conversation on this, what can we do, I think we need to rethink what is in our budget that is a want, what is a need, how do we become honest with ourselves about the difference between those two. And that, I think, will free up a lot of individuals to say, okay, now how do I do the things that I should be doing? Like have a risk plan if I've got financial dependence.
But basically it goes back to the entire psychology in terms of how is it that we look at money and how do we approach the subject of money. We do have comments on Facebook. Andrew is standing by on our Facebook page to give us more on that. It is over to you, Andrew.
Well, plenty of talk and action here outside about financial planning. I'm definitely learning one or two things. Faith in studio there. We asked on Facebook, what do you think? Do you think South Africans are well informed about financial planning? Tons of answers coming through. Let's run through some of those right now. Zapiwa says, yes, but still a lot of people live the high life. They can't manage, so they end up with big credit cards and even get blacklisted. Sinen Tlantla says, yes, but people are very ignorant. Chelsea says, nah, they're not. Kululi says, nope, we wouldn't be in this mess applying for more credit amnesty. Tony says, not at all. Many people in South Africa are still failing to take care of their families, although they're working and earning a lot of money. Monele says, no, many people would not be over-indebted in the situation currently. Some would have to work until they're very, very old. Arthur Angrybird, we all know and wish we could, but with all things going up and salaries not changing, it's very, very difficult. Spusizo says, no, not at all. The only financial planning we've got is to drink the whole month. And Swaki says 80% know about it, they're just ignorant. Cindy Lee says no, and most financial planning companies, insurance companies are out there to rip us off instead of helping you out with specific needs. So those are some of those comments coming back from Facebook. Back to you in studio, Faith.
Thank you very much for those comments, Andrew. I mean, quite strong comments coming from people. A lot of times, I think, articulating the message of ignorance. Are we ignorant when it comes to saving, Barry? And very quickly, top 5 saving tips that you can give South Africans looking ahead of the festive season.
Well, if there was just one coming through on all of those, is we do not understand credit debt. We do not understand that if you do not pay your credit card or your store cards off at the end of the month, you are going to pay 23% more for whatever you've bought.
Okay.
So if somebody you're at the till and the person says to you, is it straight or budget, you actually should take it as an insult, because you actually should not be buying it if you're putting it on budget. You actually can't afford it.
Sure.
So, I mean, we mess around a little bit on this. I feel very, very strongly about this. And people must protect themselves from themselves.
Well, let's take a call. We've got Titi from Durban. Titi, good morning to you. Hello, Titi. All right, we seem to have lost Titi. But in terms of also, you know, developing that saving syndrome, what else do we need to look out for? What else can we do to save? I'm talking about practical tools that we can implement now to ensure that we are generating that extra income.
You start with your budget. It sounds very boring, but you have to know what you're spending it on, and then you have to reflect on that and actually say, do I really need all of this stuff? Right now, actually, for a lot of people working in bigger companies, they might be on a medical scheme. I know when I was 25 to 30 odd, I was on the top medical scheme. I was the healthiest person in South Africa at the time. Why was I on that? I should have been, and I could have saved that money and paid down my debts.
All right.
The second thing is, if you do have credit card debt, you go for your credit card debt first. Do not be saving money in Stockfells if you've got a credit card debt. Do you know what I mean?
So aspire to cut the credit card in half.
First, then go for your revolving debt, and then go for your home loan. And the only grey issue is that you should have, in your pension fund at work, you should be contributing 15% to that pension fund.
All right, and from you as well, Cole.
A lot of little practical things that you could do if you really want to get serious about saving. Start washing your car yourself. Pack some lunch to take to work. What I do is I keep a coin jar.
I'm so guilty of that, though. Oh my goodness! I
could see your face.
But I know, my face just went. The guilt just like, yeah.
But think about how much more money you'd have if you just did certain things that were easy yourself. I keep a coin jar at home, and whenever I got change in my pocket, I put it in, and once a year, you'll be amazed at how much you can accumulate. There's a lot of small ways. Psychologically, motivate yourself. I keep a list, and I say, I'd like to be well off enough one day too.
Okay.
And that, I find, motivates me to make the correct financial decisions in the moment, because I'm aspiring for something down the line that is not an immediate gratification item. It's not the latest cell phone. It's something that's bigger than that, and I motivate myself by asking myself, where do I want to be at the end of 2014? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Financially.
And in terms of investing, what could you advise South Africans to be investing in? Is there a scheme that yields the largest returns, particularly in the quickest time?
I've got a very boring answer, and it's going to be the same as Barry's. If you want to take your financial planning seriously, get some help. Or do a lot of research yourself so that you know what is out there, because you get a lot of people coming and saying, this is the best, this is the latest, this is the grandest, it's got the best returns. And a lot of South Africans have been very hurt by an industry that's been selling to them rather than giving the correct advice.
Yeah, people should go on the FPI website, the Financial Planning Institute website, and they find an advisor. And the members of that institute are what's called certified financial planners, professionals. And what happens is that they've got a postgraduate diploma in financial planning, and they also adhere to a code of ethics. They're the best kept secret in the financial services industry.
So we will encourage South Africans to do so. Gentlemen, this is where we have to leave our conversations, unfortunately. But thank Thank you very much for those tips. I'm sure that many South Africans will be utilizing it, particularly looking at the festive season. We've been speaking to the founder of Veritas Wealth, also South Africa's 2013 Financial Plan of the Year, Barry Omani, as well as from Alexandra Forbes. We were joined by Carl van der Berg and giving us information about how is it that we can be more financially savvy coming this festive season. Now, for more information, visit their website www.veritaswealth.co.za or www.alexandraforbes.co.za. Cindy standing by with your daily competition.